Professor Hundorova, it was your first time when you saw this film, as far as I know.
No, actually,
Yeah.
I watched. I watched this movie yesterday, and today this is my second time. Yeah.
But nevertheless, you have fresher impressions than I, because I saw this film several months ago.
Okay.
So maybe you would share with us your impressions, your thoughts, and as a literary historian, as a scholar, but also as a person, as someone who is one of in the audience, one from the audience.
Yeah. First of all, of course, we all understand that this is about history of Ukrainian literature, Ukrainian culture as well, but in the history of Ukraine. But nevertheless, of course, we all understand that appearance of this movie is not accidental as well. I would say that. Maybe this epoch of executed Renaissance, it was called, or Red Renaissance, as it was usually called in the 1920s, 1930s. Of course, this is a very, very interesting period. But this is period also, and that something represent a kind of very, very violent, very awful, absurd, fantastic period, and actually, it seems to me we can see in this movie as well. We have this impression of terror, of course, but it is also a kind of a monstrosity as well, as we also see in the movie. So, of course, this is a reconstruction. This is the imagination. This is imagined world of 1920s is about this period that the authors of this movie try to show us, try to construct. And first of all, when I watch first time, I can say that I feel how young, how healthy, how creative, how beautiful these people were. And it seems to me the actors as well, they are very, very good in this movie. Actually, they represent, they give us this impression of years of expectation, something, yes, and also creativity as well. And we also have a kind of windows in this life, not only in life of literature. Also, this movie, it seems to me, is actually like it has an intention to show, to demonstrate it. First of all, not only for everybody, for all people, but it has so many implied meaning and citation as well. That something, it's a kind of introduction to our knowledge about this epoch as well, because we know we met this name like Підмогильний, of course, Хвильовий, the main person here as well, and Semenko. I like it very especially is how Semenko was reading his Semenko, famous futurist Ukrainian, and when he read
the actor is very similar to
very similar,
how we imagine, how we know Semenko from the authentic photos from
absolutely.
that time.
And when he read this Bi, Bo, Bu, something, this is a very futuristic, and it seems to me it's excellent as well. So, and we also listen and we hear this text as well. And it seems to me in some way, what I like it especially in this movie is that actually it's not only the people who struggle, who fight against the system, and who also became the victims of them, but it is the poetry itself. It's a poetry itself that is fighting against this system, about this brutality, violence as well. Because so many different voices, so many different poetic voices we hear in this movie. For instance, Sosura, Itachena, and others as well. So it's absolutely amazing. So we can speak, of course, many things, because we are literary critics, we are one of the audiences, as Ostap said. Of course, it would be very good to ask some question to the authors as well, but unfortunately they are not with us. Yeah, it's. I'm very glad that we have now our knowledge of this epoch of this about also the usual life, normal life, of everyday life as well is very interesting. And you know what? It's also this movie is in some way it is very symbolic. In some way, it's something like a charge, something because it also sometimes is like very straightforward. It's like a placard. It's like that shows us this is different.
Did you think that the director and the authors of the screenplay that they play with this stylistics of kitsch, maybe sometimes even that they deliberately present some things in a very straightforward, very straight way. It could have been done in more sophisticated way, but they emphasize this brutality of some some specific things that we see on the screen.
Yes, it's hard to say that because I would like to ask the authors, but it seems to me sometimes maybe it is intentionally or. But sometimes it is not because it's also this movie is also ideological as well. So it is not only fictional or something like a very artistic movie as well, yeah, because it has some ideology, it has some over determination, over image, because the movie should not only say something about the life and these authors as well, but also about this actually you use this word of brutality of the system as well, and especially now when we have this situation of contemporary war, of course, we all know who is the enemy, yeah, and we, of course, we in some way we have the situation and danger and threat of repetition of this situation as well. So this is, it seems to me, it's a mixture of everything, and of course it has some symbolic image like famine, like Holodomor. Of course, we can see that it's absolutely not realistic. It's some fantasy, and it is a symbolical image of this field with black, without. That is not green. It is not life itself, but it is like a death as well. And so it's. Isn't
this? Don't you think that it's kind of citation from this so-called Ukrainian poetic movie? That it's partly rooted in the Ilyenko's tradition, so it's also multi-layered from this point of view as well, don't you think so?
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me movie by Osika, Leonid Osika, about Stefanik, which also has this black picture about also a very awful catastrophic event. This is immigration. Vasil Stefanik, of course, many of you knows about him and his work as well, who was writing at the beginning of the 20th century about migration of Ukraine beyond their home as well. Yeah, yeah. Of course, it's have also this citation of poetry, but as well in visual or images as well.
Not only poetry, because as far as I know, and I know it from the comments of Lyuba Akimchuk and Taras Tomenko himself, they used very many authentic documents from that time. The memoirs, testimonies, letters, many things, because Lyuba Akimchuk and Taras Tomenko also worked on this theme for for many years, for about a decade, because as Luba commented at the very beginning, before the in this short video before the film, the idea was to create this movie during Yanukovych time. It was impossible, which is also some kind of I consider it, I feel it as kind of illustration. The destiny of the movie itself also illustrates the nature of the hero's struggle. What did they struggle for? And it illustrates the nature of this of this threat that they face in their time. The existential threat. So the mere fact that a decade ago, it's not a long time, it's just 10 years ago, such movie would be impossible as a real, not the idea, but the realization, as an artifact. It was impossible to create this. It was possible to think about it, but it was impossible to create it. It was the very similar situation to the situation which Mykola Khvelyvy experiences in the movie. He has an ideas, and he creates some texts, but he cannot publish it. So everything repeats, even within. So it's kind of the topic, the story, the narrative of the movie can be seen inside the movie's history. So isn't that the sad paradox of our history, where everything repeats?
Yeah, and very interesting, of course. This is because the main person here, the main hero, is Mykola Khvelyvy, who called himself that he's responsible for all generation of authors of this time, and actually he committed suicide as a kind of in a kind of protest against the arrest of that he feel already very close to him itself, because he was also in a trap, and he actually this is all very powerful protest, because he didn't allow to this enemy just to be the victim. He became from this situation like a winner. He didn't give them this possibility to lower him, yes, and to kill him. So it's very powerful kind of protest that Khvelyvy committed, and very strong as well. I just like to remind you that as far as I remember, there's information that in 1930s, for instance, among the Ukrainian authors, it was about 300 and more Ukrainian authors at the time. But in 1938, it was only about 60 or 70 of them who became alive. The rest were executed. They were exiled or committed suicide, or was taken to the to божевільні, how to say it, like Sosura, for instance, and you see this. So this movie is all it seems to me constructed with some citation, with some knowledge. For instance, this character of stepdaughter of Khvelyvy, which also plays some role here, because it is not the daughter of Khvelyvy, it is stepdaughter of him. But for this actually we know that Khvelyvy actually left a few notes before his suicide, and one of them was sent to this stepdaughter, and he was very, very kind, and in this letter addressing especially to her, like for instance, like maybe for something, for somebody who is very close to his soul. I'd like also to ask you about which is also interesting for me, because my students, for instance, sometimes when I teach this course, and when I started to talk about this period and show, especially when I show also the pictures as well from this time, they asked me, okay, and where are the women famous? So this is absolutely famous image of this generation, of this period, yes. But here actually we also have such female voices and images as well. What is your impression? What do you think about it?
Well, it's very hard. It's very hard to be neutral after long discussions and even arguments around, for example, Raisa Troyanker's figure here, because the main objections were they were about the fact that this figure is very straight, it's very flat. That we can see female body objectivation in this hero, in this figure, and of course it's. I think that it partly comes from the fictional nature, partly fictional nature of this movie, because from the documents of the epoch, we know that Raisa Troyanker was, of course, she was much more complicated, more interesting person. But I don't know, for the sake of visual effect or dynamics of movie's narrative, she is as she is. she is rather flat, two-dimensional. And of course, this I completely agree that the female figures could have been more interesting, more three-dimensional in this movie. But the fact is that, of course, for example, we have only one woman among Ukrainian avant-gardists, avant-garde writers, not painters, not visual artists, but writers, and it was Raisa Troyanker, exactly. So if you take the anthology of Ukrainian avant-garde poetry, there's only one female name there. So the Ukrainian avant-garde at all, not only Ukrainian but also Western European, Central European avant-garde was rather patriarchal from this point of view. But also the story of this spy part of the story, the story of denunciation of these writers, the Slovo House inhabitants, it was much more complicated and less visual, less adventurous, as it is presented here in this film, because we perfectly know, everyone who knows better the history of Slovo House knows that the person who informed the Secret Service about the everyday life of the writers was not a person like this. It was not the. He was not the failed writer. He was a talented writer. It was Yuri Smolich.
Yes.
And the real history is much more tragic than, in my opinion, than this version presented in this film. But it would be much harder to present it this way, in this more realistic way. It was maybe slightly easier to create such fictional figure, which unmasks itself among the other things in the movie when he says that I'm your image. I live only in your imagination. He says to Mykola Khvilioi. So he unmasks himself as a fiction. But the most tragic part of this story is that the person who cooperated with the secret service officer was a real person. He had a real prototype, unfortunately, but Akimov had no real prototype. But Yuri Smolich, the real person who denounced many of his colleagues, was a talented writer, and he was really one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree that everything, of course, everything is much more complicated. And actually, we have such a kind of hint here as well, because, for instance, we can understand that the wife of Volodymyr's wife,
Absolutely.
she was also writing this denunciation against her husband, and of course
she is quite ambivalent figure here.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
and we all remember this episode when she speaks. She calls someone, and she informs someone about what the writers, the colleagues were doing that time.
And as well, Mikhail Semenko wife Natalia Ужві, who was a very famous actress. Actually, she was also, it seems to me, like agent of NKVD as well. So it's much more complicated. So in some way, it seems to me the figure of Akimov here is you're absolutely right that many in Ukraine and in Facebook and everywhere there are many discussions about the reason why this person who became this agent, if he actually who is actually the guilty, something like a person who stayed like a devil about beyond this old stand. Why he is a stranger, why he is a, how is it called, graphoman. So it's, does it mean that nobody, no true writer can be a agent as well? So, of course, no. And the authors, it seems to me, they want to try more complicated image, because finally we understand that in some way this image is like a phantom, like especially for Khvilioi, because we have also reference to his novel Ya Romantica, where Khvilioi speaks about myself, and it is this myself has a two part, two double. One of them is me is Cheka, is somebody who killed his mother, but the other is the mother. The other part of his identity, his consciousness is, of course, is good and is associated with his mother. So it's like a estrangement or projection of subconsciousness, projection also the some kind of spiritual belief in communism as well, because for instance, Mykola Khvilioi actually even dying, he left this note where he say "Хай живе комуна," And actually he called himself not communist, but communar. This is absolutely another understanding of when we mean under the name communar and commune, because Slovo in this all community is also in some ways commune. Живем комуною, for instance. This is a word of one of the poem of Pavlo Tychina. So it was very, very utopian, very idealistic in some, and mystical even belief, like in a Царство Божие, for instance, Blue Commune for Mykola Filevy. But it is also
it's interesting. I noticed that in the subtitles it was not translated. It was written Zahirna Commune. But I think that it's important to understand what this word Zahirna means. The commune behind the mountains, somewhere in some Elysium, in some fantastic space. So it's absolutely unreal. It's even in the mere concept, it is not real. It's somewhere else. Mythological slightly. Absolutely, I totally agree with you.